hurts. Fucking life sucks, everything hurts.
It's reflective of, like, I can't stand when people manipulate people. Like when I call them the mayors, like especially in the entertainment industry, where it's like they go up to every single person and they try to have like a connection because they want to maneuver like that person's, like how that person sees them and like how that person will look out for them. So they'll go in a room and they're like, oh, Brian, like, oh yeah, you like punk metal? I don't know, do you? Or military. Okay.
Sorry, it's been a while since I talked to a 58-year-old lady. Let me adjust.
I'm like, you like the punk with the
You like
guitar and
rock,
the
punk.
you know, the leather? You. Yeah, you.
Yes.
No, but you, okay, military. Like if I'm like, oh my God, like my person was in the military. Navy, right?
Army.
Hello, let me get there, okay? So I'm like, okay, you're in the Army, and then I go to like another comic, and I'm like, oh my God, like you have two sisters, me too. And then like another comic, I'm like, oh, you're from Florida, like my best friend's from Florida. And then another person, you're like, oh my
Right.
God, like
shaking hands, kissing babies.
exactly. It's the mayor, where it's like you're trying to have a connection with each person because you know that like if you personally can affect the way someone feels about you, that they're more willing to look out for you or do things for you. And I don't think that everybody's like intentionally being manipulative, but it's something that like I pick up on and I'm like, oh, I hate that quality. That's so disgusting. And I'm like, oh, why do I hate that quality? Because when I was younger, I used to do that because I used to have to switch schools all the time. And I was always the new person. And I was like, how do I get everybody, like, you know, to like me or not fight me or not make fun of me or whatever. So like I had to like navigate like that. And then like I realized it about myself. And then I'm like, oh, that's why I don't like this person. And I'm like, because they're reflecting like a like behavior of mine that like I worked hard to like get rid of. Because now I'm just like, I don't care who anyone is. I was like, I'll hide behind my hat. And like, if we connect, we connect. Like, if not, bye, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I guess that kind of thing feels like almost innate because it's like a survival thing.
Yeah.
Because like when we used to live in like tribes and stuff, I could be completely like making
that
this
makes
up.
sense.
But
Yeah.
we used to live in like tribes and stuff. Like if you weren't accepted by the tribe, like they would oust you and you'd starve and die or whatever the
Right.
fuck. So like I guess that's kind of a natural instinct, but when we're in a business like this, it feels so like gross because it feels like, oh, you're trying to get somewhere.
Yeah.
As opposed to just like, oh, I want to keep peace in my life.
Right.
And be nice to everybody so that I
Totally.
can keep peace in my life. Because me, like, I feel like everything I do is to avoid confrontation.
Yeah.
I am so afraid of confrontation, so I'll like be nice to people that I don't necessarily want to be, or
Right.
like you know,
What
I
do you
have
think it
trouble
is
saying no and
Yeah.
stuff like that.
What do you think it is with like confrontation? Like what, like when you know you have to like say something to someone and like the moment's about to come up, like what's literally popping up in your brain? Are you like, oh fuck, this is gonna be bad, or like, oh shit, they're not gonna like me, oh no, like I'm gonna be a lot, like what are the thoughts?
I think I'm like really afraid of people being angry with me. Probably because like my dad like serious.
I was like, don't say anything yet because I already met it. Yeah, don't tell me anything.
Okay.
Yeah, because yeah.
But yeah, like anger just like makes me so uncomfortable,
Right.
and I never know where it's gonna go. Like I feel immediately
in danger.
Yeah.
No, it's fun. I mean, not funny, but interesting because where's my phone? Because
It's right next to you.
Oh, well, everybody don't yell at me. But like when I meditate on someone, like I'll get like, and this is how I always explain it to people because I think it's really not that woo-woo and it's like not that magical. It's just like in a subatomic like particle world, like everything exists, like it's a vibration, it's light, and it's frequency. So like the smallest form of energy are like those three things. And so like everything has like a vibrational like pattern to it. Like, you know, because energy can't be created or destroyed. So whatever's like in existence, like is, and it has like different dimensions are just meaning like it's a different perception of seeing like the same thing. So like when we say like dimensions, it just means like our perspective on something. So if we were to see our body in the first dimension, we just see a bunch of molecules and like energetic shit floating around. And we see ourselves in the third dimension, it's physical, you know, and then say like a 12th dimension or something, you're seeing things like in a very like energetic, like, you know, non-physical form. So, you know, like bugs or dogs or whatever, like they can pick up on things that like we can't see or we can't hear. Sure. And so when we're like altering, like trying to alter to see through like multiple dimensions, like all you're doing is like you're manipulating your brain waves, because like our brain is like naturally in like alpha or beta, and those are states where it's like we're processing information, we're like, you know, surviving, we're, you know, just like doing day-to-day like brain tasks that don't allow us to perceive things like for what they really are. And so when we get our brain into like a theta or a delta state, we're able to take in information. So we're actually getting our brains to a receptive state where we can pull, because, you know, like information doesn't just come from reading or like exchanging in communication. Like information is like something that like if you turn your brain into a receptive state, like you're just pulling in like downloads. Like, you know, anybody who's like invented something, it's not like they like literally were just like da, 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 and da. It's like, no, the idea is coming through thought, and then they're like getting the ambition and motivation to keep trying until like the thing like works. So when I'm getting, sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, how do you think like psychedelics affects that shit? Because the first time I did mushrooms, like when you were talking about perceiving your body, the first time I did mushrooms, like, because I have like, you know, like a lot of people, I'll be like, I fucking hate my body, it sucks, I look like a fat piece of shit or whatever. But like the first time I did mushrooms, I remember like looking down and like not really seeing it as mine, but just like a body that, you know, that like, this sounds so like so mushroomy, but like I was like, yeah, it's just like a thing that's carrying my it's not
information stack.
And I'm like, it's just a body, like who cares, it's just like carrying me, who the fuck cares what it looks like, it's fine. Like if I saw this body on another person, I'd be like, that's fine, it's a body. Like,
totally,
you know, but because it's mine, I fucking hate it.
Of course, because your emotions are attached to it. But that's exactly, like, drugs are so good for getting us into, okay, not all drugs.
Drugs are good.
Drugs are what you want to be doing.
So good.
Yeah, children listening to Aunt Monarey. No, but like, so when they take like brain scans, and they do this, like they have like 4 different types of like scans that they monitor our brains, like they do it's like some, you know, blue ribbon like journal shit, but they'll do MDMA, which is Molly, mushrooms, LSD, and they'll do marijuana. And so like they do these brain scans, and so our brain is like a bunch of different like sections that have like different like, jobs, right? And so how our brain, you know, people say like we only use 24% or however much it is of our brain. Like these different sections, there's all these like neuron pathways that our brain communicates with different sections of each other. But when we're like in a normal state, there are certain like pathways that just aren't connected. And then when you take drugs, especially like mushrooms or LSD, there's certain pathways that start to open up, and now there's communication through sections of the brain that normally don't have communication with each other.
We had some brief technical difficulties,
but we got it. It's because they're trying to stop the truth, Nicole.
Yeah.
They're trying to get me. Illuminati. I don't think so.
You were talking about neural pathways that are connected that normally are not.
Yeah. So when you do drugs, finally you have this opportunity to where different sections of your brain have, you know, can communicate with each other. And so when they do these scans, the brain actually, so it has like different sections that like are like lit up. Is lit up a word? Lighted up?
Just lit.
Lit up. Okay.
Lit.
Yeah, like that are lit up. But so
that's where the phrase lit comes from, maybe?
Probably, yeah.
That
like
you're lit.
You're fucking lit. Like you're on.
All your brain. They show that it's not the like, this is your brain on drugs, and it's like a disgusting, gross egg, but no, it's actually like lit up, beautiful.
Yes. And marijuana is the one where it's like, because people are like, oh, like, so like marijuana, like there's certain sections of your brain that get fired up that aren't normally fired up, but then it takes down things that you normally have. So like marijuana is almost like a replacement, but like LSD is the only one that it's like every single section of your brain is like lit up. So you're like, okay. And that's my favorite drug.
Sounds terrifying. I don't know if I want my brain completely lit up.
Oh, I'm scared of
amazing. I'm scared of what I have stored away.
No, I mean, yes, like all that stuff like will come out, like your shadow aspects, like those are just like the dark side of our psychology, which we all have it. But it's like one of those things where you're like, oh, like you start to like realize that like all like energy is like at the end of the day, it's just this malleable fucking floating energetic thing, right? And the reason why they say like our thoughts and our intentions are so powerful is because this malleable energy, like when you put intention into it, like it physically manifests into that thing. So it's like, it's people think it's like a miracle, and it's like, no, it's not a miracle. It's just like science. So your body has like electromagnetic waves. Like when you get an EKG done, and like those like waves that like come out of the fucking machine, or if they hook it up to your brain, it comes out. So it's like those electromagnetic waves like are on a certain wavelength that have to match up with another wavelength because it's electromagnetic, meaning like it charges with like energy. So, when they do these studies of, people like having, they get them into a meditative state and they get them to feel like peace, or they get them to feel calm, or they get them to feel love. And how they do this is they start guiding people through meditations where they're like, all right, think about the person that like, inspires you the most. Think about the person that you love in your life or that you're most thankful for. And when they get everybody into these states, they start to monitor these waves, and they see that everybody's waves like have these same patterns to it. And then they do, they lead them through exercises that guide them through fear and like anger and like resentment. And then those waves have a similar pattern. And so what they, what the data like concludes is that it's like, oh, like certain emotions have these energetic patterns. And, everything, like whether it's a flower or whether it's a mushroom, whether it's the wind, also carries vibrational patterns. So it's like you want to get yourself into a state of the higher, like, those softer energetic patterns of like love and hope and whatever, because you're literally then charged up and synced up with things that are of like nature, which, and if you're stressed and if you're angry and if you're whatever, it's like you're gonna charge up with things that are a little bit more stressful and chaotic and whatever. And it's like, it sounds woo woo, but you're like, no man, it's fucking physics.
Yeah
It's physics, you guys. Mm-hmm.
Have you done readings for Brian yet? Have you done a reading
No,
for Brian
but you
yet?
want to know something that's so funny that came I don't know what any of this means, but last night, so I was like meditating, so I was like, okay, like I'm gonna come onto the pod. And so when I meditate, I start to get messages, remember, because they're just vibrational patterns. So it's like I'm charging the intention of being like, this is the information that I want. Energy can't be created or destroyed. So I'm picking up on it, getting my brain into a receptive state. And then I'll just get like, I'll get either like visions where it's like, when you're dreaming and you have like all these like visions and you're like, oh, it's just shit that's in your subconscious. Well, when I'm getting my brain into that receptive state, I'm going into my subconscious, and images that relate to the feelings that I'm picking up on pull up for me. And then I can it's like a game of Pictionary where I'm like trying to like put the shit together. So it's like, and the first like few times it happened to me, I was like, okay, am I schizophrenic? Like what's going on? Like blah, blah, blah. Cause I would like,
You're good.
okay. Yeah. I would have like voices like come in. That sounds creepy. But then I just would start like recording the information, and it's like every single time it was just like dead ass accurate. And I was like, okay, I have to like stop being embarrassed about this. But like my roommate, who's like not woo woo or spiritual or anything whatsoever, her dad died like 10 years ago. It's like before I knew her, like, or maybe like 12 years ago now. I never met her dad, like anything. And like one time I was meditating, and his voice just was like, hi, I'm Catherine's dad. Can you give her a message? And I was like, no. I was like, okay. Like I was freaked out because I was like, I don't want to see dead people. I don't want to see no creepy shit. Like, I'm already a female comic. This shit is hard enough. Like, I've had a hard life. Like, no fucking weird shit, please. And then the voice was just like, no, like, please, can you please give her this message? And I was like, ugh. And he was like, started like telling me things. He was like, ask her about a black and white stuffed animal with like a red ribbon. Ask her about like a special ring with that has like, I was seeing like green like gemstones, and I was like, and then ask her about like Catholics. So he's like, make fun of Catholics, and I was like, okay. And then he like gave me like a message to give her, and then so I was like, how am I gonna bring this up to my roommate? Like, how am I gonna be like, hey, real quick, dad, okay. And he's talking to me, So I just started asking her. I was like, I was at my boyfriend's house at the time. And so I was just texting her, and I was like, by any chance, I was like, do you have a black and white stuffed animal with like a red something on it? And she was like, yeah. She's like, you mean like the one on my bed? And I was like, oh, and I was like, yeah, where did you get it? And she was like, my like dad won it for me at a carnival or something like that. And I was like, okay. And then I was like, do you have like a special ring? Like, do you have like a ring that's like really meaningful to you? And she's like, yeah, I have like a best friend ring. And then I was like, fuck, like that's not it. Like that, he said dad, like I'm stupid, I'm schizophrenic. See, like this is weird. And then she was like, well, she's like, I have this other ring too. She's like, but I actually don't have it anymore. And she's like, I lost it and I'm pissed. She's like, because it was actually the ring that like my dad gave me. And then I was like, what? I was like, what does it look like? And she's like, it has 3 green like gemstones or whatever in it. And I was like, oh my God. And I have this all like written out and I had screenshotted it with a date. So like it shows that I received the information like after I messaged her. And then I was like, something's telling me to like make fun of Catholics. So I was like, does this mean? And she's like, you're freaking me out. She's like, what is going on? Her dad divorced her mom because the mom was like super like Catholic and like staunch and just like whatever. And they got a divorce and he would always make fun of the mom, I guess, for being Catholic. And she's like, what the hell is going on? Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I was like, I was meditating. I was like, this is the shit that came in. I was like, I have no fuck. Cause at that point I had never had like consciousness, like someone else's like shit, like talk to me, you know. I would get messages of my own, but not like, you know. And then she was like, that's so weird. She's like, because 20 minutes ago, she was like, I was watching this show on Netflix. And in the show, like the girl's dad died. And she's like, and I was crying. And I was like really sad because it made me miss my dad. She's like, and then you texted me. And I was like, fucking sorry. Not just a regular comic. I'm fucking psychic.
I feel like we should be scrolling a 1-800 number and have credit card logos all over this. 'Cause this is a straight up infomercial for mind reading.
Well, you do have a podcast called the Shamanic, right?
Yeah, I do.
She is a shamanic.
Yeah, that's why I started it, because I was like, this stuff is happening to me, and I was like, I'm just not gonna. I would always like hide this side of myself because I was like, I'm a comic, I'm cool, like, you know, I'm one of the boys, like blah blah. But I'm like, also I could fucking save your soul, like I can, and I'm not gonna feel embarrassed about it. And I'm sure there's tons of people who think I'm fucking crazy, and I'm sure there's tons of people who are like, okay. And I'm just like, yeah, I don't care, because like the messages I get, like every time I tell somebody something, it's like spot on, and I see that they and maybe it's a coincidence, and maybe it's crazy, or maybe it's just fucking you know, drank too much Red Bull and fucking making shit up, whatever. But I'm like, I see the positive effects it's had in my own life, and I see the positive effects that it's having in other people's lives. So I'm like, whatever. Like,
yeah, I mean, like I've always been a skeptical person in general, whether it's of religion or like whatever the fuck it is.
Yeah.
But in that skepticism, it's also an understanding that I don't know shit. Because the reason I'm skeptical is I'm like with religion and stuff,
Right.
I'm like, I don't believe in, because everyone is so sure they're right.
Yeah.
And obviously not everyone is
be.
right.
Yeah.
So like my whole thing is like, I'm not like, I don't believe in anything. I kind of believe that anything could be possible.
Right.
And I know that like I couldn't possibly know what is and isn't, like,
Right.
because I'm a fucking stupid one. And I'm just like a person. So like I really am, I guess maybe not skeptical. I'm open to all possibilities.
Right.
But like also open to the fact that everyone could be wrong. Like,
Totally.
So,
yeah. And I think like I'm one of those people too where it's like, I think that realities don't have to be all the same for everybody. I think like some people's reality, it's like, yeah, maybe there is no spirituality, maybe there is no divine like fucking sort. Maybe in your reality it's like it doesn't exist, and that's the code that you live by, and those are the things that make sense for you. And like maybe the people who like do live by this code is just based off belief, and it's just placebo effect. It's like nobody fucking knows. But I'm like, I just like to live my life like this because it feels good, and I'm, you know, I feel like I finally have like gotten myself to like happiness and peace in my life, you know. And so I'm like, well, it
whatever
works.
way you get there. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there are things like a long time ago that like couldn't be explained the way they can be explained now, like with
Totally.
science and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So like back then they had things that sounded crazy. And
Yeah, like,
but
people
now
are-
it's like, oh no, this makes sense because this
Yeah.
is what it is. So like with that kind of stuff, like I do think there are people who pick up on things. I think there are people, and I don't know like how it happens, but like I know people who like when they have a feeling about something, like I'm like, oh, I trust that feeling.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah.
I had a roommate who like every time she was like, I have a bad feeling, like something bad's gonna, it happened. Like I
Yeah.
was like, oh my God. Like every time she had a bad feeling, I got
You're like,
scared
all
because
right,
I was like, this girl has
coming.
some kind of intuition or
Yeah.
some shit. Yeah.
I mean, animals have it. Like there's like animals are like in tuned with like nature like so well that they like there's like this one bird that they started to predict. I think it was earthquakes after, because the bird, like every time like they knew, like they would change their like flight schedule of like migration, and the scientists were looking at it and they're like, why are they changing it? Like what's going on? Like how come sometimes it's in this month and it's this month it's different? And what they realized was that every single time the birds like had changed their migration cycle or whatever, they were avoiding like hurricanes or hurricanes, because that would make more sense. They're avoiding like hurricanes. So they're like, okay, so like this bird is like intuitively like picking up on some pattern. And this is like a documentary on Netflix. It's about like mushrooms, but not like psychedelic mushrooms, but like actual, like, you know, the fucking organism or whatever. But so they're saying that there's like how like the internet, like how we have, you know, a man-made manual like internet, like there's like an underground like nature's version of the internet where like these different, you know, plants or like animals can pick up and receive information, just like how the internet, like what, again, I'm explaining this terribly, but you can watch the fucking documentary.
Real quick, before we give birds too much credit, about a month and a half ago in Mexico, a flock of birds all flew full force into the ground, and hundreds of them died right into the concrete.
You know what? Maybe there was a reason.
Have you ever heard of a sacrifice, Brian? Jesus Christ.
Just want to say it's tit for tat.
But I'm saying like they're animal, like they know like when shit, you know, they're like, oh, this is, they know like when it's time to mate. They know when it's like fucking something's in the water, where they're like, this is like they can pick up on shit, where it's like they don't talk to each other, like they don't, you know, they don't have the same like they're just in tune with some aspects, and you're like, we all like can do it. But it's like, you know, I'm like a firm believer in kind of what you said too, where it's like, just because like science like hasn't always caught up with everything, it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. Like, you know, people thought there was only one solar system. Like they thought there was no like fucking land on the other side of the ocean. They still think that the earth is flat. So it's like, we're constantly developing technology and, you know, the resources to put in a lot of the studying and the data behind a lot of these things that like monks and shit have known for thousands of years. And they're like, yeah, we already know that. But they're like, well, we haven't proved it. And it's like, great, but like we're already like doing it, and we built pyramids, remember? And
You're not an alien built them person?
no, I mean, yes, but like not built them physically, but they gave them the information like to have the tools and the resources like to build it.
Gave the slaves.
Yeah.
No.
No.
The Egyptians, and then they followed those orders
Okay.
by using slavery, right?
Gotcha.
Is that how it went down?
Yeah.
Okay.
Something
And
like that.
Alien to master to slave.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, they're
So
called
it's the aliens' fault.
yeah. What are they like? Akhenaten or Anukin? It's like in the Sumerian tablets, but it's basically like the sky people. And but yeah, Egyptians were like very spiritually connected, and they knew how to have like divine connection and to like source information like through getting into altered conscious states. Yeah. And that's why they were so advanced, and we have the ability to do it now too. And
Birds are also sky people.
they are sky people. Yeah.
I was like, I'm like a bird. I have intuitive instincts.
Yeah.
So you do readings.
Yeah.
Oh, so you were saying you were meditating on something when I asked you
Brian.
about Brian.
Yeah,
Did
yeah.
you get messages about Brian?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
almost walked out. It took way too long to get back to me. I was furious. I was like, I
my
thought this
God.
was about to be about me.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, we're going to make this about you, Brian. Don't worry.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
And I don't know if any of this makes sense, but this is what popped up. Okay, so the numbers 17 and 72 kept popping up, like, and I kept seeing. At first, I was seeing 1772, and I was like, okay, but then I saw it as two separate numbers, like 17 and 72, and then I saw it like on jerseys or like some type of like sports thing or whatever, like 17 and 72. And then I saw a boy that like, you were like close to, kind of like brotherly like energy, but I don't think it's a brother. And then I saw like a pain like in his stomach or like his like abdominal area. And then like something like tragic like happened like in the is any of this making sense?
Nope.
No. You don't do you know anybody who died like from like a stomach or
I know
cancer?
lots of people who died, but from stomach cancer, no.
Not like stomach cancer, but just something in the abdominal like region, like a pancreas exploding or like just something like, because I just kept seeing like literal like muck and like gunk. Like whenever I see like darkness like in someone's body, that means like, oh, like this is like the root like cause of like whatever. But I just saw someone that was like really close. I don't know if like what the number 17 and 72, but I kept seeing 17 and 72 or like teammate like, but it wasn't sports, but it was like they were showing me a sports thing to like resemble like team. And then I saw like, oh, well, was someone shot in the stomach?
I had a bandmate who was shot in the face. He survived.
Does 17 and 72 mean anything to you?
No, I have some significance to the number 17, but it has nothing to do with anything you're saying.
Okay.
That's just my mom died on March 17th. But I don't. That's. I mean, I imagine I have something for every number between 1 and 99, so I could attach something to every number.
Maybe an ancestor that died in 17.
Yeah, none of that rang any bells whatsoever. And I'm not being a dick. I'm
No,
wide
it's
open.
fine. Yeah. But okay, so like 17, I was like 17 does mean something, but I was like, we'll find it. But so I kept seeing 17 and 72, and then I kept seeing some guy like it having like stomach issue or stomach pain or like some type of like pain like in that area.
Maybe it's going to happen.
Well, I had a best friend who killed himself, and he was a junkie. And I don't know, opiates bind. Maybe he was constipated from opiates because that happens when you do heroin.
Yeah.
Can't shit. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah. And then I saw like a fast like car, like a race car, like a white car, like, and I don't know if it was like somebody liked NASCAR or somebody had a fast like white car, but they were just kept showing me like a like white like souped up car or something.
It's doing nothing for me. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Nope. But did anybody like NASCAR or anything?
I just got into NASCAR like 2 months ago.
Okay.
I went to my first race and
Okay.
loved it. But no. No.
No. Okay. Well, those are the things that popped. I was like, okay.
I do have
like,
a horrible memory, and I do have a long list of bullshit that's happened. So I could have forgotten some things.
No, but it doesn't mean anything. Like it just like when things like pop up, like what I was like feeling was that like somebody was like a brother to you or someone was like close to you and they died, and something with like in your mom didn't have a stomach cancer or like anything in the abdominal. Brain tumor.
Everything's
okay.
in the head.
Okay. Yeah. But I'm like, okay, but it just felt like someone like close, like a guy, like a brother type of energy.
Is it always something in the past, or do you think you sometimes pick up on stuff that might happen?
Jesus, I hope it's in the past. I don't know if she's predicting somebody about to die from stomach shit soon. I guess I was wondering who my best friend is recently. I guess that's how I find out.
Yeah.
Whoever dies of a
Whoever
stomach
dies
pain.
of
Like,
some
oh, that
stomach
was my
pain.
best
Yeah,
friend.
You were wondering who your best friend is?
Yeah, because I have like 5 or 6 people that I couldn't put above them. I couldn't put one above them.
No, I don't think like,
Okay.
I don't know. I feel like when I was a kid, I would be like, I would say like I have a best friend, but like now that I'm older, I don't think yeah, you kind of have like a group of people.
Yeah.
Right.
It's weird to pick one person that's like, you're my best friend.
Right. I was thinking in the context of if I ever had a traditional wedding,
Oh, and
who would be
you
my
pick for your
best man?
Got it.
And
got it.
came up with nothing.
Yeah.
Do you have a brother?
No.
No.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I
Yeah.
feel like normally it would be people's like brother.
Yeah. That'd be nice and simple.
Right.
I could make it my sister. I've been in a bride's crew before.
A bride's
Yeah.
crew, a bridesmaids.
Like I said,
Yeah.
I just went.
Whatever, I didn't know the word.
I
It's
love
not the
it.
pink
I
ladies.
just, I
It's
just
not
went
true.
to a bachelor party, you know?
Yeah.
I just went to a bachelor party. I like
Who's getting
the
married?
bending of gender norm. Ed Larson. He's Jeff Ross's cousin.
Okay.
Good guy. He's awesome.
Good guy. Good guy.
Well,
Okay,
did you
well,
go
this
to-
is weird. Sorry, I'm like, I hope no one in your life dies of stomach cancer.
Well, listen, I've got death calluses. I'm fine. I'm ready for it.
Okay.
No, it's fine. I was just wondering. I saw a picture, I think, of you on Instagram on a party bus. Was that the bachelor party?
Yeah.
Were you going from were you strip club hopping?
No, we just went from Jeff's house where we were all getting drunk to an Alice Cooper concert, and then to a tiki bar, and then back.
So this is an older man. Getting
Yeah.
It was like
Alice.
it was like the party bus was just like a bunch of like dad looking guys. Like
Yeah,
Yeah.
I saw the bus and I was like, man, Nicole really does hang out with writers.
I
Yeah.
do.
It was the most. Everybody had that Judah Friedland
yes.
30 Rock look.
That's
See,
hilarious.
seeing like Mike Lawrence at a bachelor party is hilarious. No,
Yeah,
it's I hang out with a lot of old dudes, which is perfect for
Yeah.
my father issues.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your crew of friends have been exclusively living off of Nature Valley granola bars
Right.
and sparkling waters, whatever they give in a writer's room.
Well, and
Fruit
even
snacks,
even
Welch's.
my boyfriend is 44, which is 7 years younger than my dad. And so I'm just like a perfect friend and girlfriend for older men because I've just spent my whole life getting into things to impress, to be
Yeah.
closer to my dad, like sports and his music and all that stuff. So I just
You're a
have
45-year-old
all the
man's
same
dream.
interests.
Yeah.
And so I just
You're like Queen and Pink Floyd. You're like, got it.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
I know.
I love dad rock. I fucking love
I
it.
like dad rock too.
It's
Yeah.
great.
Queen is the best.
Yeah, but my friend Keith, Keith Carey.
Keith Carey. Yeah.
Yeah,
Is
yeah.
he still around? I haven't seen him.
Yeah,
Like-
he's around. He lives in Long Beach now.
Oh, okay.
yeah,
But he's
around.
still, he does stand up and stuff?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. You
He's
can cut
pretty
that out.
damn
That's-
good.
We
Yeah,
are roasting each other on May 3rd for
Oh,
the
nice.
Netflix is a Joke festival.
Oh, cool. Okay. That's coming up soon. Hell yeah.
yeah.
That'll be fun.
It will be. He's awesome and very roastable.
Yeah.
But he would always when he's in my car, we go on the road a lot, and he'd always be like, you have cool dad taste in music.
Here I go again on my
He's like,
own.
yeah,
Yeah.
fun dad.
Yeah.
But
Do you drink and drive, Nicole?
I try not to.
Okay.
Now that
I get to see you with cracking open a beer.
you know what's funny is I feel like I have let people crack open a beer in my passenger seat, and I get so nervous about it, but I won't say anything because I don't want to come off as not cool.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
Oh
happened
my
so many times
God.
where someone's just cracked open
And
a
you're
beer, and
like-
I've been like,
I'm so
I
comfortable. I'm
hope
like,
I
what
don't
the
get pulled
fuck are
over."
you doing, idiot? Yeah.
I can't. I don't want them to. Hey, the only time I said something was when it was a cop. He was a cop, and I was like, "Aren't you a cop?" And he was like, "I didn't want to be a cop." And I was like, "Okay."
Okay.
Hardened
Yeah.
detective.
He's like,
Right.
I wanted to be a billionaire."
Like, okay, complete wrong industry.
Yeah.
I didn't know drinking and driving was wrong because my dad always drank and drove in the car. And I remember one time my dad got pulled over by the cops, and my dad's like, these fucking pigs, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, these fucking pigs. My dad's just having a fucking beer in the car. What the hell? And the cop is giving my dad a hard time. And I was always feisty. And so I was like, sir, can a man work his fucking job, pick up his kid, have a beer without being bothered? What the fuck is the issue here? Stop bothering this innocent man. And then the cop just looked at me and I remember being oh, he's so impressed that I'm sticking up for my dad, and I'm like, oh no, he's oh, this child literally thinks that it's completely fine to be blasted in the car because that's all. And even when I was came home and told my stepmom, I'm like, yeah, and they're all, it's oh my God, it's when is getting drunk a bad thing? Oh my God. And they're like, no, you can't drink. And I had no idea that it was wrong for a very long time.
Well, he wasn't crashing.
Yeah. I mean, he did his fourth DUI. I'm like, here's the thing. He has 4 DUIs, and his last DUI, he hit a cop car head on.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, which is a shortcut, you know what I mean? Because usually
Yeah,
you
yeah,
crash
yeah.
into a car, then you have to wait for the cops to
You
come.
didn't have to wait.
Exactly. You crash into the cop, and it's vroom, let's just go.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, straight to jail.
Yeah, straight to jail. Again, daddy's gone. Bye.
I think my dad only got 1 DUI, but I didn't know about it until this year. He told me about it, and I was like, oh, because the year his mom died was the year he was the worst when it came to alcohol and stuff like that. And yeah, he was like, yeah, that was the year I got my DUI. And I was like, I didn't know you got a DUI. And he was like, yeah.
He's like, I still drove you to school.
yeah.
I'm not gonna fucking not take you.
I do think that he picked me up from soccer practice drunk a couple times. Because he was like one of the, you know, like, I don't know if you guys played sports, but like if you, or like dance or whatever the fuck, but like it was so embarrassing if your parent picked you up late because the coaches would have to sit there and like wait with you.
Yeah.
And so like it got to the point where sometimes I would like hide and make them think that my parents picked me up so that they wouldn't have to like wait with me, and then I would just like sit on the curb for an hour.
So good.
And then my dad would come and be like, I fell asleep, and I'd be like, okay.
Yeah, you're drunk. Yeah. My mom didn't have a car, and then like my dad like got a car. They were like divorced, but same thing. Like I remember like my parents were like very neglectful. Like I would always have to remind them like, hey, I'm your child. Like I don't know like what you're doing, but like I'm supposed to be like fed. And like I'm supposed to be like, you know, like just washed or laundry, whatever.
So needy. God.
Can't a man just get off work and neglect his child?
Like what the fuck? But they would forget me all the time too. Like I would just like never get picked up or like never. And I remember like one time. It was like after like a gym class thing, or it was like a gym field trip, like after school. And then I was like, okay, like I told my dad to pick me up, and I was so excited because I was like, oh, my dad at least has a car, like my mom doesn't. She'd have to like pick me and we'd have to go on a bus. And then so I was like just like waiting. And then like my gym teacher is like, I don't think they're coming. And she's like, I'll just like drop you off. And I remember in the car, that's when I first heard of the Cranberries. It's because like my gym teacher like played it over. Yeah, R.I.P. Yeah. And I'm like, there's so many times where I'm like, I mean, I did get sexually abused, but I'm like, there's so many more times where I'm like, I should be dead. Like I would get in the cars with like strangers who got like bit by like sharks. Like they were just like my mom's like neighborhood like bar like regulars, and they'd be like, get in my car, and I'm like, okay, like, and I would just like be gone. I'd like stay at these random dudes like houses. Like I'm like, that's so dangerous, but I have a lot of good stories. And
yeah,
you know?
I'm
Sure.
I'm starting to see why you're a comic. It's
Brian's like crying. He's like, sure.
No, I wish I was, but no, that doesn't really affect me.
No, but
I'm sorry.
Brian's dead inside.
yeah.
No, dude, I bawled this weekend.
Did you?
Yeah, I cried.
Oh, at the
About
show?
what?
No, there was a heavyweight championship fight, boxing. No, it's not the fight; it's the ring walks. You know what it is? The ring walks
So
make
you were
me
inspired.
cry.
So
No, I was not inspired. I felt like shit. No, because like I chose because I'm an artsy fartsy person. There's no meritocracy there, and there can't be. It's impossible.
Yeah.
But with fighting, I just was looking at two great people who got out of horrible situations and made it all the way to this arena where 94,000 people spent so much money, found parking, the whole rigmarole to get there to watch them fight.
Yeah.
And one of the fighters grew up like not just neglected, but just thrown on the street as a child. He was from Jamaica, thrown on the streets, stabbed 3 times, shot twice. The other guy was a Roma gypsy, which are treated like scum in England. And so I was just thinking about their whole life stories. The only time I ever cry is boxing.
You were
ring
inspired.
intros.
That's beautiful.
No,
That's
I was proud of them.
Yeah,
in a way.
that's inspirational. Where you're like, yeah, that's what inspires.
Because I feel like inspiration is something you can use.
No, like inspiration can mean like it's inspiring you to feel things that normally aren't sparked in your day to day.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
dude, I was like a slap baby.
I'm the same.
Any
Sorry.
kind of like inspirational sports movie will make me cry.
Oh,
I
for
love that
sure.
shit. Cinderella Man. Oh my
Like,
god. Did you ever see that
Yes,
movie?
of
Oh,
course.
that shit made me cry so hard.
Yeah, it's because it's one of those things because it's like those are the very few things where like we get to be like victorious without having to like come into something. Like most people, it's like they have nepotism or they have a good family or they have money or an education, something like that. But it's like to be like, oh, to come from absolutely nothing and to make something, to go from rags, to go to riches, to go to chaos, to go to peace. It's like fucking
It's definable
epic.
greatness.
Yeah.
Although it is kind of sad that like, yeah, one of the only ways to come from that kind of background and then be successful is to like almost sacrifice your body in a
Totally.
way.
It's like
you're-
sports, entertainment, and I mean, sports and entertainment are like the two big
Boxing
ways.
specifically.
Sometimes
Yeah.
it feels almost like exploitation sometimes in a way
Yeah.
that's gross. But like, you know, yeah, you're right. Like they are great at what they do, and they come out of a situation in where any other instance they wouldn't be able to.
It's like a microcosm of like justice, where you're like, okay, the person who like worked the hardest and like overcame the most and like put in the effort, like they won. So it's like, because in life it's like that doesn't work most of the time.
I was watching the baseball Ken Burns documentary. Have you ever watched that?
Of course.
And the part where was it in that documentary where they talk about like all the leagues in like the Dominican Republic and stuff, and they like show maybe it was that, or I watch a lot of baseball documentaries, but they were talking about like that league, and they have these leagues where now, because like, you know, it became a big thing where they realized, oh, they can play baseball, and but and like they have all these leagues, and that's their like dream, is just to like get into the major leagues in America, because that's their way out, like that's their way to like
like having a life that's like somewhat peaceful.
And like it was really cool seeing some people make it and be like, but then like they were showing all these people in the leagues and interviewing them, and then you saw them not make it, and it was devastating. Like it was so sad.
It's
because
really sad.
They were good.
Yeah.
They
But
just
not
like
great.
weren't good enough, and like they just
That is the painful part, but it's also the best part, where like I just like knowing I'm watching the best.
Yeah.
You know, when you go turn on a comedy special, you're not watching the best.
Right.
No matter, because it's impossible to define what that is.
Right. But
It's
there's
just
like
comforting.
at least like 10 people where you're like, I can count on you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess.
watching Shohei Ohtani has been a pleasure.
I
It
know.
really has.
Wait, watching what?
Shohei Ohtani. Shohei.
Yeah, he's a baseball player. He's on the
Okay.
Angels.
I was like, you guys are.
He's a modern day Babe Ruth.
He
Yeah,
came from
okay.
Japan, and he's like fucking. He also just seems like such a fucking nice guy. But he's like just the best. And he can pitch and hit, which is like
Nobody
just
does that.
unheard
Yeah.
of.
Yeah.
And not just pitch and hit, but he is like the best of both.
Yeah. Oh,
Like,
wow.
He's incredible.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it is it's really.
Did you go to an Angels game for your birthday?
I did, yeah.
You had like box seats, right? I saw.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
So
So you
sick.
love baseball is what I'm gathering.
I do.
As
I
I
do.
assumed.
Well, that was one of the things that I helped me bond with my dad, getting older, because I was like, he would always tell us like like the most important things in my life in order are baseball, you guys, and then your mom. That was what he would say. So
Wow.
I had to get really into baseball so I could be a part of his
It's
favorite thing.
Because you were saying like Nicole, like how you guys have the same birthday. Her baseball is like a big thing because like these are the messages that I got for her that got right for her. Okay.
Nicole
But-
Is Nicole
Schreiber.
the- oh,
Yeah,
okay.
Nicole
Nicole Amy
Schreiber.
Schreiber. So like I meditated on her and I kept seeing her dad like calling her like rookie and like seeing them at like a baseball field and she was like, yeah. And then I kept seeing her like him coming to like games or something. And she played softball. Her dad came to every single one of her games. And
I also played softball.
Oh, really? Yeah. And she and her dad had season tickets to wherever the fuck she's from. But like her dad had season tickets and like that was like their favorite like activity to do, like blah blah blah. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh, that's so. But
My
it's
dad
funny
also
that
had
you-
season tickets.
what is going on with you, Nicole?
I
This
went-
is fucking Freaky Friday.
I went to so many baseball. It's so funny because like my boyfriend, he's a huge baseball fan. He's a Mets fan. He's from
Yeah.
New York, but he had, before he met me, he'd only been to like 4 baseball games, and that's nuts to me.
Amateur.
Like because he knows like when it comes to, he knows way more than me. Just like you give him a baseball trivia thing,
Yeah.
no matter what year it is, it could be before he was born. He'll know. Like
Damn.
it's insane. He'd only been to like a few baseball games, and I was like, that's nuts to me because like as a kid, it was like such a big part. Like after, like I feel like almost every day I was going to a baseball
Really?
game because like we just went to every single home game
That's so funny.
when I was growing up. So
Yeah.
like the fact that people have only been to like a few games, I'm like, what? It just seems like such a normal part of childhood for me.
Right.
It's like
There's
to go.
81 or so home games a
Yeah.
year.
Yeah, I was going
That's like a whole life.
constantly.
Yeah.
Constantly. Like just it was like during baseball season after school, like my dad would take me because my mom didn't really care to go. My brother didn't really care to go.
Right.
So I was the only one that was like, take me, because I
Yeah.
just wanted him to love me, you know?
Yeah.
So like,
Okay, just
I just
want
really
some
like every single
affection.
game.
Maybe a hug will come when someone scores. I don't know.
And then the sad part was if they lost, my dad would tell me that I jinxed them. And
I jinxed my dad a lot.
And he would like mean it. Or like if we were watching it in the living room and they started losing, he'd be like, "Get the fuck out!
Yeah.
You're jinxing, get out!" And so like I would go as a kid, I would go to these
my
games and just like
God.
pray that they would win because I didn't want my dad to be mad at me for jinxing
It's a
them.
shame we couldn't flip it around on him. Where it's like,
my
you know, give
Oh,
me some
now
fucking
I-
ice cream or I'll jinx your ass.
Yeah.
I should have.
Yeah, I'm a fucking
Is
witch.
the dollhouse coming? Wouldn't want
Yeah.
to jinx your fucking team.
That is
Yeah.
so funny.
Yeah, my dad has these little like a Green Bay Packers pickup truck thing, and he has these gnomes, these Green Bay Packer gnomes, and he has
Yeah.
a bobblehead Vince Lombardi. And depending on how the game goes, he has to rotate him certain degrees. It's just OCD. But
I was like, your dad crazy. Yeah.
Nobody is more superstitious than sports fans.
I know.
Oh
Just
my
like,
God.
It's insane.
My dad was a huge. I'm from Buffalo, and I don't know if you know about us, but we lost 4 Super Bowls in a row.
Bill's Mafia.
Yeah, and when I was little, like I didn't know that football wasn't sad. Like I thought football was just a sad like activity because like my informative years were watching grown men like crying at being like, no, not again. Like we bet money. Like people are getting divorces, and I was like, oh my God. I was like, why do people watch football? It's tragic. And they're like, like no, that's not. That's just your people thing. And I was like, damn.
And the Bills, they had all their fans had those pants, those Zuba.
I have those.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? Those
The
like zebra stripes.
print.
Oh,
yeah.
yes. Yeah,
right,
yeah,
right.
yeah.
That's what we do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
It's-
have those?
Of course.
Yeah.
I wear them to bed at night. Yeah. With my
Just
giant
people-
Bills t-shirt.
People
Yeah.
crying in zebra pants.
Yeah, in the middle of the snow, just like, ugh, like literally. I mean, the Super Bowl's in February, which is like the worst month of
Right.
the year in Buffalo. I'm like, we have Buffalo was like the 4th poorest city like at that time, and one of the worst like winters like in the fucking goddamn like United States. And they just lost 4 Super Bowls. You're like, light this place on fire and get rid of it.
Yeah.
Like, they gotta go.
Yeah.
The whole city, every single one of them. Bye. That's it.
That's
And that's
so
how I
funny.
knew I was gonna leave. I was like, I'm not a loser. Like,
Yeah.
I can't stay here.
Yeah, my girlfriend's from Rochester, so I hear all these stories about upstate New York. And it's
Yeah.
just, it sounds like gummo. It's just the most depressing fucking,
So depressing.
just opiate, destroyed. Yeah.
I know like 4 people like that I know very well, like that just died of heroin at like 25.
Yeah.
And you're like, hey, you can leave.
Yeah.
So sad. I used to think that I wanted to move to New York. Like I just romanticized New York.
New York City,
So
right?
hard.
Yeah.
And then like everyone I know that's moved here from New York is like, I would never go back. Like
Yeah. I always say New York is a better city, LA is a better place.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like if you want like a city, New York, but if you're like I want like my lifestyle and the quality of my life and you know like the day-to-day, you know, environmental like non-hassles, it's LA.
I feel like because there are people who are so like they're from New York and that's all they'll ever like. They're like, no, New York forever, New York till I die. I hate everything that isn't New York
Yeah.
and whatever, but it's shitty.
Yeah.
So like I feel like those are like the people who love shitty sports teams.
Right.
It's like, well, I'm being abused
Yeah.
by my team or by
Yeah.
but I can't not, you know,
Yeah. And
be
you're
all
like,
in on them.
good for you. Like if you're really happy in New York, like I think there's people that are happy doing it, and I think it's like a pride thing. But I'm like, everybody likes sunshine. You're like, don't you like the sunshine?
Yeah.
Like, don't you want to see it? Like New York sucks. Like I lived there, and it was like there's only 3 good months out of the year.
Yeah.
Like people think like, oh, summer. No, summer. It's fucking humid. Like you can't wear jeans. Like you have like crotch sweat everywhere. And I'm like, how are people having sex? Like your hair is disgusting immediately. It smells like trash. You have no privacy. Everybody's like, oh, in New York, like people get it. No, they don't. They're all fucking tourists and they're all in the goddamn way constantly. And it's like, every 2 seconds it's like there's a delay, there's something happening, everything that you planned on is not gonna happen. It's raining, and then it's sunshine, and then it's cold, and then it's snowing, and then it's expensive. You're like, this isn't it.
Yeah.
Like, this is not it.
Well, and I love snow, but I grew up in California, so my idea of snow is like going up to Big Bear and seeing that fresh sheet of snow.
Yeah.
In New York, it's like black and dirty
Dirt,
and
yeah.
like yeah.
Ugh.
But I was always like, yeah, I would love to like go in New York and just wear long coats and be a
Sex
cool
in the
bitch in
City.
the city.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it ruined all
and
of
just
us.
like snow and
Yeah.
like just so
It is
magical.
beautiful. Like there are what's great about New York is it's so spontaneous. Like you'll leave your house at 7 a.m. and then you don't come back till 7 a.m. and you're like, whoa, and you like never were home. You're just like out and about because it's so easy to get around, and you're just like meeting all these different types of people, and it's just literally like a melting pot. Like in LA, like it's very segregated. You know what I mean? And it's not like intermixed, and everybody's kind of the same type of person, or there's like 4 categories. But in New York, you're like, it's all literally fucking mumbo jumboed up. So it's like, it can be fun, but it's just most of the year, you're like, when I go outside, the shit that's touching me sucks.
Yeah.
You know?
I do think bars should be open till 4 a.m.
Yes, absolutely.
I wouldn't be at bars till 4 a.m. anymore because I need to be in bed by like 11 now.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I think it's ridiculous that bars close at 2 a.m.
It sucks. Well, as a bartender, like, I used to bartend, and I was like, oh, it'll be perfect. Like, I'll make more money. And then it's like, by the time you get done with like your checkout, it's like 5:30 in the morning, and then like the trains only run like every like you're getting you're a 9 to 5. You're a graveyard worker. You show up at 9, you get done at 5 in the morning. By the time you get to bed, it's like 7, and you're like, and then you sleep the whole day. And I'm like, it sucks. Like you can make money, but like it sucks.
I don't know that I'd work. Yeah, I wouldn't like it if I worked there.
yeah. But I was gonna say too. Okay, so let me tell you
Let's
what
do this
popped up.
reading. I asked Monterey too. I don't even think I've introduced you yet.
Oh,
This is
yeah.
Monterey Martinez. She's a very funny
very crazy.
comedian, and she also does readings. And I asked her to come do a reading for me on this podcast because I thought it'd be fun.
Yeah, we're doing it. Okay, so when I meditated on you, this was the stuff that I saw, and some of this might be like dark or like tragic.
Okay.
Okay, so I just don't know if you're like, if you want
Or
like
completely wrong.
I'm like, or completely wrong. Or we're going to have to do a fucking 2-month update. And when Brian's friend dies, then we can fucking come correct it. Okay. Now I just have to try and maybe kill somebody's friend just so I can have my fucking pride. Okay. So the first thing that popped up is like, I saw you in a doctor's office when you were a kid. I saw you in a doctor's office, and this is probably symbolism, but I saw you in a doctor's office with like bruises on you or like marks on you.
I'm sorry. I'm ruining it. I'm the worst person. I'm gonna have a water.
No, Brian, you have to stay here. Oh.
Anybody want water?
Yes, I do. Okay, but I saw you like basically it was like symbolizing that like you lying.
Me lying?
Like you having to lie to protect people. So it was like I saw you in a doctor's office, and I saw like a doctor like seeing bruises on you and being like, sweetie, like what are these bruises from? And you're like, nothing, like no, like blah blah, like
Yeah.
And so like again, I don't know if that was like a factual like moment or it was just like symbolism of like she had to lie a lot to protect. Oh fuck.
You're good.
Okay, to protect your parents or something. And then I saw, again, it's darker, but then I saw you like, I saw like a family member, and I think it was a male, but like probably not a brother, but like a grandpa or like an uncle or something. But like I saw like snuggling like in the bed, but then I saw like dark energy over the person. And so I was like, probably some sexual abuse or like something. And again, I don't know if it's a family friend or like a family member, but I saw you like having to again like lie or like cover that up or like not having like the ability to like express that, which was then showing me like that a lot of like your anxiety comes from because you were in like a lot of like dangerous like situations like when you were little, and the people that were like supposed to protect you were the ones like that were like hurting you. And so it like creates like a lot of like inner like conflict where you just don't ever naturally like feel safe, and you don't ever like naturally like feel comfortable. But that is something that like can go away. Because I was the same for like a long time. But I saw that, and then I saw sorry, my phone just turned off. Sorry, you can tell. Yeah,
I mean the lying thing, I had to lie to cops a lot because my parents constantly fought and it would get
physical,
loud, physical, like whatever, and cops were called by the neighbors and stuff a lot. And my parents would be like, you have to tell them everything's okay, like whatever. So that was true. I've had sexual things, but not till later in life. Unless I'm repressing shit from when I was a kid. I don't know. I do have people in my life who have that theory that I repress it because of like just stuff when I started having sex, and I was there were a lot of like psychological blocks there and dissociation and stuff like that. So
yeah, a lot of the times too, like people like, and I'm not being like, yeah, you were molested, not like that, but
and I also and then like my boyfriend say he was talking to his therapist about me and that kind of stuff that I have revolving around sex, and he said, did she start masturbating really early in life? And he was like, actually, yeah, because I talked about that, like how I did it, like I discovered it when I was in like kindergarten, first grade.
Me too.
And then
it's usually a sign of sexual
and then I got like caught masturbating in class in like third grade.
I went to school for early childhood development, and that is not always a sign. It's rare. It's often rare.
I think so.
Oh, there you go. It's there's also tact. Are you there?
No.
Yeah, you're good.
There you go.
I'm gonna have to fix this after, but it would take too long to do it.
Okay, we're good.
There's a lot of tactile stuff. There are a lot of people who, a lot of kids who you'll find rubbing surfaces all the time, rubbing their blankets. Very tactile, touchy people.
Got it.
And they often are just like rubbing their vagina or whatever all the time.
Well, I was like obsessed with like
It's the first time I've said vagina in years.
But
I got into college mode.
They're rubbing their vagina.
I can't call it a pussy.
they're
Made eye contact with me, rubbing their vagina.
their vulva. No, I was obsessed with like with silky things. Like I loved rubbing like silky things, and I got in trouble when I was in kindergarten for bringing my mom's underwear to school because it was silky, and I just wanted to like rub it against my
I had kids who wanted to play with their shit because they liked
me and my
the way
sister,
their shit felt.
We would after we would like
their actual shit?
Their shit in
gross.
the toilet.
Yeah. Me and my sister, we
Kids are gross.
and then we would take a spoon and like stir it up in the toilet. Like why I don't know, but I'm like, we were in high school now. But we were like, I'm like, it's just we used to take. We had a cat, and we would like take the cat's shit, and we'd like take an empty candy bar, and we put the cat shit like in the candy bar wrapper, and we go up to my cousin like, want a candy bar? And then we're like, it's cat shit. Oh fuck! It's cat shit.
Did they eat it?
No, everybody knew right. They're like, there's cat litter all over this. Like, what are you doing? But we just thought, we're just like, dude, we just fucking got you. And he's like, it's very obvious that it's cat shit. The wrapper's already open. Like, there's kitty litter. Like, you're not tricking us.
My brother put and he didn't even mean to do it. He put a roly-poly in like a Whoppers box, and he was like trying to show me his roly-poly, and he was like, Nicole, look. And I just thought it was like, you know how like if you're eating grapes, there's like sometimes like a baby grape, and you're like I thought it was like a little Whopper that was in there. And so I just went and took it and ate it, and my brother starts like crying, and he was like, that was my roly-poly, and I started crying. I was like, I just ate a roly-poly.
That's hilarious.
He thought I thought he was like evil for like I thought he
Yeah.
was, and then he thought I was evil. Like we both thought, like I thought he was trying to make me eat a roly poly, and he thought I was just like, I'm gonna eat your roly
Yeah,
poly.
it turns out you both were just dumb.
And the truth is, wait, what? Okay, so yeah, I was like, so we don't know if you were sexually abused as a kid, but I was just seeing a creepy.
No, but it was later.
Yeah.
Which has been coming up a lot for me lately. I watched that the Cosby that we have to talk about Cosby. I think I talked about this last time. I watched a little bit of it and I like had to stop watching it because I was like, this is this is bringing up shit, because some of the stuff they were describing was like exactly what happened to me, and so I just like started like I was like I can't watch this anymore. And for like a week I was having like nightmares and other stuff was coming up, and I didn't even know that it still affected me, because I'm someone who, and I'm sure like all of us do, but like I'll like joke stuff off and be like, yeah, whatever, like it wasn't a big deal, and like and so like I've just spent so long pretending that it wasn't a big deal, that like eventually I was like, oh no, I think this was a big deal for me.
I'm sad.
Yeah.
No, that was the same. Like honestly, like for me, like I got in like I always was like, oh, I'm fine. Like I have jokes about it, and I was like, and they're hilarious. So I was like, that means I'm fine because I'm laughing. And then like, I mean, honestly, like during the pandemic was like the first time when I was like, oh my God, I'm so sad.
I have to deal with these emotions inside of me.
Exactly. And I was like, oh fuck, like I'm fucking angry too. I was like, I'm like livid.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. And then I'm like, and the thing that like really helped me, and it's like sounds like woo woo, but it's like inner child healing, where it's like you literally have to like visualize yourself like in the moment that it's happening, which is hard to do because you're like, I don't want to see myself raped as a child, like that's fucking like ugh. But I'm like, you have to like see yourself in the moment, then go in as your adult self, protect and like counsel and like love and like fight off the bad like you have to like do this like visualization exercise, and it sounds like stupid, but it's really not, because it's one of those things where it's like, you know, our inner child, like it never dies. Like, you know, when you're like goofy and you're silly and you're just like being playful, you're like, that's your inner child at play. So it's like, it's a part of you no matter what. Like you just physically get bigger, you know, but it's like you're that little person in you that just wants like to be safe and like loved. It's like that exists in us. And so it's like, we have to like let it know that it's like, no, you're safe. Like you're good. Like nothing bad's going to happen to you anymore. And it's like, it takes work, but it's like, it like has to be done, because then like our anxiety is like through the roof and you don't even know, because you're like, like I thought just like for more than half of the day, I just always would rather be dead than have to do the thing that I didn't want to do. Yeah. Like I just thought that was normal. I was like, oh yeah, I wanted.
It's very normal, I feel like.
Dread, yeah.
100%.
Dread is a huge part of my life.
Yeah. Where I'm like, yeah, I would just rather die. And I'm like, I'm not going to kill myself because I'm a procrastinator, but I'm like, you know, there's so many times where I'm just like, and then I'm like, oh, that's anxiety? Because I thought like anxiety, like I just looked at people who had anxiety. I'm like, you're a pussy. Like that's what I literally was that toxic male. Like, okay, pussy. Like, oh, like it's for people who have like acne and like, you know, fucking have a lisp. Like that's anxiety. And I'm like, no, like it's when you feel like.
I've never heard anxiety described that way. It's for people with acne and a lisp.
That's like how I thought of it in my brain. Like same thing with therapy. And I was like, a therapist? You mean some loser who went to college and their parents paid for it? Like, what are you going to tell me? You grew up with a fucking driveway. And I'm like, no, Monterey. Like
grew up with a driveway.
Yeah. I was like, they don't know shit. Like they haven't been out on these streets. I have. And I'm like, dude, like where is this like fucking like toxic male like coming from? And then I'm like, oh, pain. Like, it's just pain, and just not like being afraid to like embrace it like head on. Like, you know, because we have demons, and it's so much easier to be just like run away or hide. But to like look at your demon and just be like, give it a kiss on the forehead. I'm like, I'm not scared of you. Yeah,
because anxiety doesn't always present itself as like, you know, having an inhaler and being like, I'm having a panic attack. Like, you know, it's like, it's all number of things that it can look like. And a lot of things in my life I didn't realize were anxiety. I'm finally figuring out that they are.
Self-sabotage. Yeah. Self-sabotage. Okay. So Let me interpret your cards here.
Okay.
Okay, so like I said, and the other thing that popped up for you was like I saw you like spilling something, like spilling juice or like spilling tea or whatever, and then like your dad like freaking out on you. And then it was just like showing me like you like constantly like walking on eggshells, and so I was like, okay.
Always walking on eggshells. Yeah.
I was like, okay, daddy's mean.
He's a lot better now. He's
good.
You know what's crazy is like I look back at my childhood and my dad is like a different person. Like he's still like an angry guy.
Yeah.
But like he in his 20s, now he's like, you know, in his early 50s. But in his 20s, like he was just like a different person. Like it's crazy. I look back and I'm glad that he grew out of some of that shit, you know.
Good. Yeah.
Busting his ass. Was he?
What do you mean? Oh yeah,
That's
for
like,
sure.
my dad
Yeah.
is chilled too, but like he was when he was like 30, he was trying to feed everybody.
Yeah, and
it's just
and you
too
don't even
much. He was on the
realize
brink.
that
Yeah.
when you're
Yeah.
a kid, because he would come home after work, and he like would like drive a truck and do like manual labor and stuff like that, and he came home and he would like immediately, we'd be all like laughing in the living room, and immediately he would come home and the energy would just be sucked out of the house, and then he would like come in the living room, he'd be like, get out, and he'd like be like, get out of my chair, and just sit down, fucking turn on, and he'd be like, who the fuck lost the remote? And we're like, nobody lost the remote. Like, and just like, and he was just like, he was just like angry
Psychotic,
because
angry.
he, you know,
And his
had
dad probably beat him.
Oh, he
and
did.
You
Yeah,
know what
yeah.
I mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
he
And
did.
it's,
Yeah.
that's like same thing with my dad too, except for my dad had like a really bad drug problem. I was like, you could fix that part. But like but yeah, it's like, you're like, oh, like when you're little though, but the thing that's fucked up is like our subconscious stops growing when like we're 9 years old. So like everything that you like soaked in like from your environment of like how you handle things and how you feel about things or how you resolve things are programmed at that young of an age. So it's like when you're little, you don't have the wherewithal or the bandwidth to be like, oh, my dad's just doing this because he got beat and now he's
Right.
displacing on me because
Yeah.
he doesn't have the healthy skill. You're just like, oh, I'm bad. Oh, I'm ugly. Oh, I must be stupid, or I'm not as good as my sister, because it's like that's our kid logic. That's the
Yeah.
only way we know how to. But then as we get older, like that same logic is constantly in place. So when you start dating somebody or you get rejected from a commercial, you're like, oh, you know, you're on that same, you know, wire of like, oh, I'm bad. Oh, I'm stupid. Oh, I don't deserve it. Oh, blah, blah, blah.
Even though later on you realize consciously the reason things were happening and why people did stuff, you still, now it's programmed in you.
Exactly. Now it's programmed
now
and
it's
you have to
in
catch
you.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so like first you have the awareness and you start catching it. Then you have to like go in and like do the fucking work. And people are always like, what's the work? It's fucking hypnotherapy. That's what it is. Cause like people like never say that. It's hypnotherapy and it's meditation. Like those are the two ways that you literally can rewire your brain. And because it's just getting your brain into a subconscious state and programming these new thoughts into it. That's why so many people have so many success stories with hypnotherapy, and you could do it for free online on YouTube.
I will say I was very like, I was like, that's not like, I did not believe that was like,
Yeah.
that would work or whatever. But when I was having those like problems with sexual things because of things that have happened, and I was like experiencing basically pain that
Yeah.
there was nothing physically wrong with me, but
Right.
it was like all mental.
Yeah.
Like I was trying to figure out like why does it hurt?
Yeah.
Why does it hurt all the time? And I went to a doctor and they were like, yeah, it's mental.
Yeah.
So I went to a hypnotherapist. My boyfriend, there was one that worked at his rehab, and he was like, go to this lady.
Yeah.
And so I went, and she did a whole thing with me, and I never had pain again. And I was
Yeah.
like, what the fuck?
Yeah. It's crazy. And it's like, it really like, because I've tried everything like to get rid of all my fucking trauma and like bullshit. Like I literally have fucking like, this is frog poison. I don't know if you can see it. I like went to a river and had some mystical shaman
remember you telling me
burn
about
my
that.
skin open and put frog poison into me. Cause I was like, I gotta do whatever, man. Like, and you're shitting and pissing in a river full of other fucking people with like crown fucking flower things on their head, and you're just like, I want this pain to go away. I'm like, I've done DMT, I've done psychedelics, I've done hypnotherapy, I've done regular therapy, I've done fucking like, I mean, any healing, chakra, Reiki, like everything. And I was like, I can't get rid of this fucking pain, and I can't get rid of like some of these like bad like tracks that like my brain just goes down. And like, there were so many times, like I said, like I never wanted to physically kill myself, but I was like, I don't want to be alive. I was like, whatever that weird mix is in the middle.
Like that feeling of like, I hope I don't wake up in the morning.
Yeah. Like if you're going to have a mass, shooting, like I could be there. And I won't mind.
I was at a point, like at one point where basically I was the most depressed in the morning because I would be like, oh, fuck, I woke up.
Yeah.
And I did go through when I went to UCLA, there was a shooting there, and we were all on lockdown for like 4 hours until they found the guy. He ended up killing himself and whatever. But like I remember being like in my dorm room and just kind of like sitting there like, I don't care if he comes in. Like he can come in. I don't give a fuck. So I definitely
you're
get
signaling
that.
him. You're like, hello.
I made
Mr.
iced
tea.
Are you angry at women? Because I'm one. I reject
bad.
men all the time.
I would never fuck you.
I would never ever fuck you. Are you crazy? That's so funny. But it's like, but hypnotherapy is like a thing that really fucking helped me. And I was like, oh my God, thank God. I mean, and honestly, LSD and hypnotherapy. LSD fucking changed my life. Like, tremendously.
I've done the hypnotherapy a couple times when I'm like really desperate to like figure something out or whatever, but it's hard for me because I have like a comic brain where like I can't shut that off where I'm like can take it seriously. Like they'll start to do, and I'll like laugh or I'll be like, I don't want to answer your questions or whatever because I'm afraid that I'll get it wrong. Like, which there is no wrong answer when they ask you these questions. But I'm like, oh, what if I say the wrong thing? And so
it's funny because like I remember when I started doing like LSD, like I was like, you think that like you have to turn your comic brain off, or we think that like, okay, we have to be serious now, and I'm like, no, like comedy is healing. A sense of humor is literally like a fucking like reset to your fucking like when you like laugh or when you orgasm, like you're literally physically, energetically like changing like the frequency that you're like emitting. And so it's like laughter is part of it. So it's like I never take any of this shit seriously. Like when I'm doing LSD or when I'm doing hypnotherapy, it's like I'm still like laughing through it, and I'm still like, oh, this is fun. Okay, like this is weird. And like when I do get messages or when I have like connected to my spirit guides or whatever, it's like they're funny. Like they make jokes like, okay, loser, like they make fun of me or whatever. And it's like, so it's like it doesn't have to be serious, and it doesn't have to be woo woo, and it doesn't have to be lame. It's like it could be funny, and it could be healing, and it could just fucking work. Yeah. And that's what we're doing.
I feel like you're like those priests that are like, God can be cool, kids.
Yeah. I'm making it a rap. I'm like, where your crystal? Yeah. No. But I am one of those people, basically. I'm trying to make spirituality as cool as possible. I'm like, guys, it's not that fucking weird. Okay, so your cards. So I'm gonna start with I have 3 different decks. So like I have a tarot, angels, and fairies, okay? And they all give different types of messages, okay, to your soul. So basically when you see cards, you just interpret it, and then if it like connects, it connects, and then we just have fun. So so like the first thing that's pulling up for you, I don't know if you're having like financial stagnant like movement, like where you feel like you're like, okay, I'm not like breaking through like something right now. And they're saying that like a lot of your financial like what's the word? Not growth, but like your financial stuckness is stagnation. Okay. Why don't you fucking relax? A lot of your financial stagnation is because of like the created stress and like the created like self-sabotage. So they're saying that like like you have, when I say them, I mean the cards, and the voices in my head. No, but they're saying it's like you have a lot of like really good ideas, and you have like a lot of you have like ideas that have a lot of financial like merit to it, but a lot of the times like you talk yourself out of it. And so they're like, okay, so like there has to be like a time for you of like when you actually like trust yourself and you like see like an idea like all the way through, like whether it's a pilot or like whether it's like some type of like podcast idea or whether it's like a live show, like there's something where it's like you have this idea and you've been sitting and you've been like brewing on it, but you're like, but no, but this is it fine? Yeah. But no, like this wouldn't make sense, or like it's like you're not like logically like seeing it, and so it's like kind of like making you like not like move forward. And they're like, but then you always are here being like, well, how come I'm not at this point in my career? How come I don't have this? And they're like, because of you.
Yeah.
You know
I
what
mean, this is just a story of my life.
yeah. So they're like, because of you. And then they're saying, hold on. Got it. Okay. So there, the other part is like, okay, so like one of like the biggest things that like you like need in your life is like you need to feel comfortable and you need to feel safe, and that's like something that you have to do. You're gonna have to like do like the inner like working, like whether again it's through like hypnotherapy, but I think you should do like inner child work, and again you can like look it up on YouTube. But there's there obviously, you know, your childhood was like very toxic and you constantly felt like you were in danger and you constantly felt discomfort, and that's probably the reason that you have a hard time, you know, with like communicating and, you know, expressing your needs, because it's confrontational and it's uncomfortable, and that's like a trauma response of being like you don't want to be uncomfortable so bad to the point where like, well, you'll completely like avoid things.
Yeah.
And like in order for like I always like, describe it like this, like life is like a game, right? It's like a video game, and like each like level, like we have to like beat a level, and each level that you have to beat, there's a bad guy at the end of it, right? And you don't level up unless you beat that bad guy. And so like for you, like one of like your bad guys like that you're like not beating is you being able to speak up for yourself. And so like they're once you like get past like this lesson, and again this is like something where people are like, oh, how can you prove that? You just do it, and then you see that it like works, and you're like, I don't care if it's a coincidence, I don't care if it's like, you know, woo woo, but it's like if you actually like level up like your emotional intelligence, and you like level up like your environment, like meaning like the people that you associate with, the jobs that you take, you know, the relationships you have with like your parents, whatever it is, it's like if you make sure that they're all like quality and they actually like feel good to you, you will like energetically like create like these blocks to be like broken, that you can like receive like the things that like you're supposed to receive. And they're like, the other thing that was like popping up is it's like you have like really, really bad anxiety, like where, but obviously I'm sure you know you have bad anxiety, but it's like you're not even consciously aware that like how you feel is so foreign to like how you're supposed to feel. Like there's like you won't even be able to like grasp it. Like once you feel like peace, or like once you like get to a point where you're like, oh my God, like I'm safe, you're gonna like think that you died. Like you're gonna be like, whoa, like my brain must be fucking dead, or I'm dead. Like, and it's gonna be like, no, bitch, like this is just peace. Like
one of the first therapists I ever saw when I was at UCLA, because they provided you at UCLA, they would give you 3 sessions and that was it. But like I was like, all right, I'm gonna take these 3 sessions. At the end of the session, he was like, I can't see you anymore because this is your 3rd session. He was like, but I strongly encourage you to seek therapy like and continue treatment. And he was like, because they would have us like fill out a questionnaire at the beginning of each session. And he was like, you've filled out these questionnaires, whatever. And he was like, and you know, here's like, he showed me like a thing that was like in each category, you know, there was like, eating problems and you know, like anxiety, depression, like all the like categories or whatever. And he was like, it compares you to like basically the general student population. And like if you're in the yellow, it's like kind of concerning. If you're in the red, it's like very concerning.
Yeah.
He's like, you're in the red in almost everything except eating issues.
Oh,
And I
wow.
was like,
You're
wow.
like, oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, but I feel normal. And he was like, I don't
Because
think
it's common. That's the only way you felt. Yeah.
He said, I don't think you know what normal is supposed to feel like. And that fucked me up for a
Yeah.
sec. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah. No, but that's like really like what it is, where it's like, you know, like your brain, like the wires are placed and like they like are working, but it's like it's one of those things like if a child like built a computer and it's like they just kept like putting like wires in somewhere and you're like, well, it turns on, but you're like, this is not like it's not fucking like this is gonna blow up, you know? And so they're like you can get to a state of like when you're gonna just like feel like so fucking like at peace and you're gonna be like, oh, but the way you're going to do it is like you have to feel like safe. Like you have to feel safe and you have to feel comfortable. And like a lot of, again, like your safety is like doing the inner child work, but then also like your environment. Like the people that like you're around, like you have to be like, these people like love me and they have my back and they support me and they don't like have bad feelings towards me. Like if you don't feel that way around a person, like they got to go, you know? And it doesn't mean that they're a bad person, but it's like, they just gotta go.
Cutting people off is something I've never been able to do. I'm starting to like try and like distance myself from people but like I've never been able to just like I had a friend, my friend Rachel, she's so good at it. Like the minute someone like fucks with her, she's like, I'm done. I never want to talk to you again.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I've never been able to do that. Someone could apologize to me a million times, like, and do it over and over and over. And I'd be like, okay. Well, and then I've done it in relationships and friendships and all that stuff. I just let people like fucking walk all over me.
Yeah.
But,
and that's like a challenge that like that's one of your bad guys, you know what I mean, where it's like sticking up for yourself, like that's the thing that like you have to like for you to evolve, it's like you have to be able to like gain that skill set, you know.
In both those things, like basically I just have to overcome being a fucking wimp. Just to not be a fucking
but you'll gain it like once you'll gain it once you know, it's like it's you know, popping up like the hood of a car. So it's like when you're like, okay, I don't have any coolant in the car, so that's why like the AC doesn't work. It's like everything has like a cause and effect. So it's like when you like get to like the root of it, you're like, oh, like, okay, it's not that I can't stick up for myself. It's that I don't like being uncomfortable, because once I'm uncomfortable, I'm afraid that I'm in danger. And once you like program like you're not in danger, and discomfort has a positive solution, because usually when we're uncomfortable and we communicate, then we reach a solution and then the problem's done. And it's like, this is so much easier now, you know? But yeah, so then the other card you pulled is moving forward fearlessly, which is like, you know, you like making decisions and like not backing down and not overthinking and just being like, this is like what I'm going to set out to do. Again, like whether it's your pilot or podcast or tour or live show, like whatever it is, like you have to just like, you have to just put like your effort into it and not constantly like second guess, like, yeah, but what if they don't like this? Or like, but like they already have a lesbian show out. Like, okay, but like, I don't think Netflix is going to pick this up. Like all of that like has to.
So sorry.
It's okay. It's okay. All of that just like has to stop. Like where they're like, hey, and it's like, it's just catching yourself in the moment and being like, oh, I'm having these thoughts. Like, let me check my mood, because your mood is indicative of your thoughts, or vice versa. So it's like, if you're having bad thoughts, you're probably in a bad mood. So we have to alter our mood, not our thoughts. You know what I mean? Like, you're not going to be in a great mood and having all these terrible thoughts, and you're not going to, you know, have all these terrible thoughts and be in a great mood. So it's like they go hand in hand. So, but, and then the other card you pulled is beauty, which beauty is like, you know, really accepting ourselves, like physically, emotionally, like mentally. And, you know, it's hard because we live in LA and it's like a city where it's like, we're constantly like, we're constantly compared to other people. Just like, even if you're just like the other female comic on the show, they're like, okay, this was the female. And it's like, people are just, you know, putting you like, okay, she was this, she was that, she was this, because whatever. And then, you know, just we live in a very superficial like city. But so it's it's very easy to go down the path of like comparison and like envy and, you know, like wishful thinking or whatever. But it's like, there are, you know, different like women's circles, and it sounds lame, but it's like there's like different like women's circles where it's like you can go, it's like free at the park, but it's like you like literally like learn to like kind of when you did shrooms at one time and you got to yourself to a state and you're like, oh, it's just a body.
Yeah.
Like it's just like what the like why do I care about this like meat sack? Like it's literally like you know, so it's like there's sorry, my stomach is growling. There's like this other technique that like what you're supposed to do is like every day when you look in the mirror, you have to just write down however many things that you like about yourself that pop up. And even if it's just like one thing a day, if you're like, you know what, like I like the color of my eyes, or like I like the shape of my mouth, or
ugh, it sounds like torture.
I know it sounds
It really does.
I know it sounds so lame, but it works because you want to know what? Like I had the same thing. Like, you know, people would be like, "Oh, you're a cute girl," but I'm like, "Yeah, but I got raped when I was 6 and I got beat, so like I didn't feel beautiful. I thought like there was something about me that like caused people to hurt me. That was like the only like thing that I could think of. So like my whole life, like I've never been like, oh, I'm beautiful, or like, oh, I'm an attractive person. Like I literally would like just see like a face. Like I never saw like what I like looked like. And I know it's like hard to describe, but I'm like, I just saw like a thing because I had so much shame in physical. Like I couldn't wear bikinis in front of people. I could never dress up. Like I was just like, cause I thought that if that did that, then I would have something bad would happen to me. And the same thing, like the first time I did acid, like I like saw myself as if like it wasn't like me looking at me. And I was like, oh, I was like, I'm cute. Like I'm cute. And I'm like, oh my, and that was like the first time I ever saw, and it's like, we all have the ability to like see ourselves like through that filter. It just is like fucking work. And like, I naturally will pick out my flaws like all the time. Like it's just what I see automatically. It's just, I automatically just see the flaws. I'm like this. And I've been retraining myself, and it's weird because like now, like there's times where I'm like, I look at myself and I'm like, oh, like I do like this thing of myself, or I do like that, you know. And it's like, people think that like, you know, that other people don't have those same feelings. And it's like, no, it's in your mind. Like you can be, you know, there's people who are fucking anorexic as fuck, and you're like, you're so skinny, like what are you doing? But they feel so fat. And it's like, we all have like these fucking blocks. And it's like, once you like do these like things, like the mirror thing, it'll start off with like one thing or two things, but then you're literally tricking your psychology into every time you look at yourself or every time you think about yourself, that you automatically now, like, you know, subconsciously start seeing the good. And then once you start seeing the good, you start feeling good. And it's like, it's just literally like a fucking trickle effect.
Because it's hard because our brains are actually naturally wired to see the negative. Like, there was like this thing where they would like flash all these images on a screen, and like some of them like were just neutral images or positive images, and then some of them were like, you know, like an ugly ass spider or like something scary or like whatever. And you're watching these flashing images, and it looks like those images are lasting longer. And then they're like, no, it actually, we showed all the images the same amount of time. But like your brain holds on to the negative things or the things that make you uncomfortable or the kind of
like
things.
Because
it's a survival instinct. It's like, oh, I have to spot the thing that's negative so that, you know. So I think like probably that translates also to our bodies. Like the first thing we spot is like,
for sure,
what isn't working here for me, or what isn't working for society.
Or what we feel like is wrong because we're like, oh, you're like, this is why this thing happened to me. It's like, oh, I have this is why. I used to think that I got raped because I had brown hair. I was like, oh, it doesn't happen to little blonde girls. Like it just happened to me. And then I was like, oh, I got raped because, you know, I was poor. And I was like, oh, and then like I had to like keep coming up with excuses, and I was like, no, you got raped because this kid probably got raped and raped you, like, you know. But it's like, but when you're young, I'm like, I just always had those beliefs where I was like, oh fuck, like it's not, doesn't have anything to do with what I did, what I said, and I had to like just like cry to myself in the mirror and just be like, you did nothing wrong, like you did nothing wrong, you know, because it happened to me a few times in my life, and so I'm like, I must be, there's something wrong with me, you know.
And it's interesting because like as fucked up as it is, I feel like some people might think like, oh, like if you got raped, you must think like, oh, someone sexually wanted you or like whatever. I realize that like if someone is using me for sex, like I feel less than, I feel less beautiful, I feel less and not that that's even about sex, it's about power, but like in college when a guy sexually assaulted me, like I remember someone actually came into the room. It was at a frat party. I know it's cliche. But two of the frat guys like heard me, came into the room and kicked him out. And I was like sitting on the couch just like in shock. And he comes out and grabs his two like female friends that were both like beautiful, like, very hot. And he was like, we got to go. And they were like, why? And he just turns to me and goes, because this bitch ruined my night. And they walk out. And I'm thinking like, oh my, these girls don't know that he's like this because they're beautiful and he's not going to attack them. Like he respects them because they're beautiful. Like I'm just some ugly bitch at a party that he wanted to fucking, you know, use to get off and then leave because I don't matter. Like and that kind of stuff. And that is
that's like the thing,
that's how it feels.
You coach yourself out of, but like really it was just because you were a stranger.
I literally thought like
have a personal relationship with him.
I thought when men did stuff like that to me, it was because I was fat. Like I was like, oh, I'm fat. Like they're just like, oh, she's just like a fat girl that I'm gonna like use and leave because she doesn't matter. You know what I mean?
And it's like because we have to like coach ourselves through it. We have to be like, well, there must be some reason like other than it's like, oh, someone sees that you're a person that doesn't stick up for themselves. Like they just can catch it. Like there's so many times that it's like same thing. Like I got like molested by my mom's boyfriend for like 2 years and I felt bad for my mom. So I didn't like ever tell her because I was like, oh, I don't want her to like have her feelings hurt, you know? And I'm like, but it's like they sense it. They sense the people who like won't speak up for themselves. So it's like it's nothing physical. It's like you'll see all sorts of bitches on the news that got raped. So it's not like, oh, pretty, ugly, whatever. You could have asked her out, like whatever. You know what I mean? It's like it doesn't matter. That has nothing to do with it. It's like they know how to pick people. It's a chemical thing, just like when we chemically can fall in love with people or whatever, and we just like have a connection. These predators can chemically pick up on the person that is an easy target, that it's hard for them to stick up for themselves, or it's hard for them to like take themselves out of a dangerous situation. And that's all it is. And
you do constantly see yourself like attracting the same people into your life until you learn a certain lesson.
Exactly. And that's your lesson, which I'm telling you now is like, yes, like you have, like that is still like a thing that you have to like conquer, is like sticking up for yourself. And even if it's like in the smallest things, like, no, I don't want to listen to this song, we can turn it. Or like, you know, it's a good test is that I always tell people, if you go get a pedicure and the lady's like too harsh on your toes or too harsh on your legs when she's massaging you and you don't say anything because you're like, I don't want to make her uncomfortable, that's how you know that you're not beating this lesson yet.
That just happened with a manicure. Oh my God, she was funny. Killing me. Yeah. Like, and I was
and
sitting there just like,
it.
And afterwards, I told my mom, I was like, I'm never going back there again. She was like hurting me because she was trying to, I had like still acrylics on, and she was just like yanking them off with that. And I was just like I was like, she's gonna, and she did. She ruined like like the top part of my, were like ripped off and my pinky was like bleeding.
And it's like, that's like a literal like microcosm of your life of being like, you will allow yourself to suffer rather than communicate because you're so afraid of the result. So it's like you're literally bleeding and in pain because you're so worried about like hurting someone else's feelings. And you're like, oh my God, like that's like an addiction to suffering, where it's like you're so used to the suffering that you're like, that feels comfortable to you. So you'll be like, I can handle that. Like I've suffered. So like, I'll just be quiet so this other person doesn't have to like feel burdened. And it's like, no. You got to stop that, Nicole. Because then all your riches and like all your money, like all your like your next like transition like in your life, like that happens like when you transition. So it's like you're not going to sell a show if you can't, if they're like, okay, Nicole, how about instead of 3 lesbians, it's 3 men who are Italian and they're having a cook-off, and you're like, what? That's not my idea. But you're not going to say anything because you can't speak up for yourself. And you're like, okay. And then the show doesn't get fucking picked up, and they're like, fuck. And then your lit agent drops you, and you're like, all of that could have been completely like avoided if you're just like, no, it's 3 fucking lesbians and that's the fucking show, you know? And so it's like, you're not gonna, these things like won't transpire until like you transform, and you got to do it.
Are you writing a show about 3 lesbians? The second time you brought up a show about lesbians.
It's called Sabrina the Teenage Witch.
I'm here for it.
Yeah. I'm like, people need to respect lesbians, because here's the thing: sometimes we don't know we're a lesbian, and then it gets revealed that we're a lesbian. And no, I'm kidding. I'm not a lesbian, even though every man in my life has accused me of being a lesbian. But I'm not.
Simple. Cut and dry.
I thought I was a lesbian for many years, but I realized I was like, oh, I have trauma with men. Because then I tried to, because I was like, oh, I must like women then. And then I like tried, and then I was like, I don't like this either. And then I was like, maybe I'm asexual. And then, yeah, so like I've been on a journey.
That was a thing where like when I first started watching porn, I could only watch lesbian porn because the penetration part of it like freaked me out. I was like, oh my God, I can't. And so like, yeah. And so then like I was watching all this lesbian porn, and I was like, am I a lesbian? I am bisexual, it turns out.
Yeah.
Didn't know that for a long time. But like, yeah, it was like this weird thing where like even in my porn, I was like, I don't want to see a penis enter a vagina.
That's hilarious. I was the opposite. I loved watching penises and vaginas when I was little. I always wanted to be a boy, so maybe that's why. But I did too. Straight.
It freaked me out. And also like when my mom first was describing to me how to put in a tampon, I started hyperventilating and fainted. Like anything that had to do with like putting something inside of me, like
I was like, I really do think you have some repressed.
And then like, so I never did it. And then eventually I was, when I was at UCLA, and I was a sports writer for the UCLA's newspaper.
Oh, that's cool.
And we went to Stanford to cover some like championship thing. And I was staying in a hotel with another female writer, and I was like, I started my period. Do you have like anything? And she hands me a tampon, and I was too embarrassed to be like, I've never used one of these because I was fucking like 20.
Yeah. She was like,
so I go into the bathroom. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do this. I swear to God,
man up and put this in my pussy.
I swear to God, I get it. And I faint off the toilet and hit my head on the bathtub. And she was like, "Are you okay?" Because she heard what happened. I was like, "Yeah, I just fainted. So weird. I don't know what happened. Maybe like I have low blood sugar or something." Like, because I just couldn't tell her.
God,
like this is what happened to me.
Hilarious.
Yeah. So there was definitely something going on with me. I don't know.
That's
I'm
amazing.
fine now, but yeah, that would.
I had tampon. I didn't start my period till I was like almost 16 years old, which is like very late.
I was like 15.
Oh, really? Yeah. And I had no tits. And I was like a late bloomer. And
Me too, but I still have no tits.
Yeah, I still have no tits either. But I was always so nervous that like girls were gonna pick up on the fact that I didn't have tampons on me, because like anytime someone was like, "Oh, does anyone have a tampon?" I never had a tampon, and I was like, they're gonna know that I don't have my period because
it does make
I
you
never
feel
have
so
a tampon.
left out.
Yeah, so I would go and like buy tampons, like. And just like be like, hey, anyone need a tampon? Girls, anybody need a tampon? I got
Like a
tampon.
prepared mom.
Yeah. Who
so
needs a tampon? And I'm like, okay, relax.
Brian, did you ever feel left out because you didn't have tampons on you?
No, I was raised in a household of women, so there was any tampons I needed were there.
Oh,
Did you ever put tampons in alcohol and put it in your butt?
No, I have.
That's
I have taken a bag of wine up the ass. Not the whole bag.
A whole bag?
I was like,
damn.
Would have done.
Yeah.
No, but
I
never.
was like, so you have the abdominal region damage. That's you.
That seems hard to do that, to put a tampon with alcohol in your ass.
Yeah, apparent kids
it's a
do
popular
it.
move.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like that would have to, because like, well, I guess it wouldn't be dry.
Yeah, it's soaked in alcohol. But you could do like a super small one. It's like it's still probably a little uncomfortable, but
Yeah.
like, you know, if people
You'll
like
black
fingers
out
in
in
their
3
butt.
seconds.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, it's so quick.
Damn.
It's so quick when you butt chug. Yeah, it's super fast.
When you butt chug, you need
Yeah.
to wash your mouth, sir.
Really? Should we recount some of the things you've said?
I was wondering.
Yes.
I was wondering last episode, like if you put antidepressants up your butt, if it'll like work faster, or
Yeah.
you know.
Wow, that's hilarious.
I think they're supposed to be time released, though.
Yeah, but
You might have the happiest 5 seconds of your life.
I feel like if you like maybe like cut a slit in the capsule and then just like put it up your butt.
Yeah, that's a possibility. You
I don't know.
You never know.
We'll find out
I'll
next
have
week.
to. I'll have to try it. Stay tuned.
Yeah, stay tuned, kiddies.
Okay. So
So
You should reverse your question.
what's that?
The question you always ask, you should do the exact opposite.
Right, because we have been talking about the worst parts of being alive this whole
Yeah.
whole time. Maybe lighten it up a little
Yeah,
bit.
yeah. What's the best?
Are there any more cards?
your last card is miracle healing, which
Ooh.
means like Nicole, all you have to do to receive miracles is fucking change.
Oh, that's it.
Plastic surgery?
Just be different.
Just don't be yourself. Just like everything that you feel, don't. Okay? And then you'll get a fucking miracle. No, but this
Yes.
means that like that this is a shift like happening in your life where it's like, okay, like some like it's usually it pulls like when you're what's that? Not an epiphany, but what's like the moment like what's like a soul defining moment? There's like another word for it. Like you know, not an epiphany, but what's like the word for?
I'm just thinking of like the
awakening?
rosebud
yeah,
story.
an awakening. Yeah, like when you pull like a miracle healing, it's like, oh, like this is a big like awakening shift in your life, and all you got to do, and which is really weird because Nicole Amy Schreiber also pulled this card.
I swear to you, me and Nicole, there's some kind of like the first time I met Nicole Amy Schreiber, I gotta have her on here, but like or I'd said hi to her like briefly.
Is she a bisexual too? I think
Whatever.
we're getting to the bottom of this.
She has dated women. Yeah, we I walked into like a coffee shop and I was going through like a really rough time and I like she just happened to be there and we were talking and I was like, yeah, like this just happened because like something had just happened where I was
Yeah.
like, I need to talk about it. And she's like, okay, I'm going to get my coffee and then we're going to sit down and talk. And I'd only said hi to this girl ever.
Right.
And we hadn't talked for like 3 hours.
Damn.
And she was like, I feel like you are me 10 years ago. And so like, it's so therapeutic to talk to her sometimes
Yeah.
because like literally stuff she has like gone through is like the exact same stuff I've gone through.
Totally.
And yeah, we have some kind of
There's some very
weird connection.
synchronistic things between you two.
And look, if there's gonna be anyone that I feel connected to, I'm glad it's her. Like if it was like a shitty person, I'd be like,
you're
oh fuck.
Yeah.
If I had all these things in common with someone I didn't like, but I think she's a pretty cool lady. So
Yeah, she's a
good.
cool girl. She's a cool Jewish girl. I'm just kidding. I want to make sure we know that. No. But yeah, so miracle healing is just saying like, girl, this is a shift of your life, but it's a manual shift that like you have to make. And
Yeah.
Because healing is self.
Well, I feel like a lot of us are experiencing like, because I have experienced a lot of shifts over the past couple of years, and I think a lot of us have because we just all collectively went through a crazy fucking thing.
Absolutely.
So like, I do feel like I have gone through so much like growth and shifts in my life over the past couple of years, and I do hope it continues because
It
I
will.
think I need that.
You just got to do your challenges. And like I said, at the nail salon, in the car, whatever it is, it's like every time, whatever the thing that like you want to communicate or that you need, just practice. Just be like, I actually don't like this song. Like, or
Yeah.
this is too hard on me. Or like, hey, I actually don't want to go to the party. Or like, you know what? Like, I can't make it to your birthday. Like,
Yeah.
you don't have to apologize. You don't have to make an excuse. You don't have to lie.
The song thing, the other day I got into an Uber with my boyfriend. He was like, "Hey, can you change the music station?" And after we got out, he was like, Nicole, when I asked that, you looked at me like I just like asked him to fucking like do something like whip his dick out. Like he was like, you looked mortified. And I was like, I was, because, but it was also because like the guy was playing like a Spanish station. And I was like, he's going to think you're racist. Like,
Dude, Ramsey and I were just talking about this. I feel like if you change the Uber driver's music, you should be shot, was what I said the other day.
Okay, so I'm
because
not
it's
the
like
only
a
one.
low-wage job, and he's in his car all day.
Right.
It's like, fuck off. Most of that money's going to Uber. Let him listen to his shit.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's
I
not
just
even
put
a
in
fear
headphones.
of it's not a confrontation fear.
Right.
It's like the guy has so little control.
The only thing that doesn't make me feel like weird about it
Not
is
that I think
because
your boyfriend should be shot.
he tips really well. That's the thing that I'm like, he's not afraid to ask for things. He's not afraid to send things back, whatever. But then he will tip. Like more than.
No, that's good. I think that like, I feel like both. It's like, I don't bother a person. Like I'll just put my headphones on. But like there are times where like people are driving crazy, or when people have the air like blasting too much or something, and I'm just like, hey, like it is absolutely fucking freezing in here, or like I don't say that, but like it, like I don't have a problem like I don't have a problem like I don't have a problem like communicating, but I'm like, but I get if you're like, dude, the guy, like just let him like have it. But then sometimes like I've been with like some Uber driver where they're blasting it, and you're like, okay, like you're not pre-gaming right now, like calm the fuck down. But I try not to I just try to mind my own business, because the thing that I hate about Uber drivers is like, just don't ever talk to me.
Yeah.
Like they make the thing now, like
It's
you
the
could
greatest
say,
thing ever.
thank you.
Yeah.
I'm like, how do some people just do not pick up on social cues? I had to drive a comic, I'm gonna say his name, I don't care, but I had to drive Mike Menendez to Chatterbox the other day, and I literally was like, I had my music blasting, because when I drive, I'm like, I just want to listen to my music. And he literally kept shouting over the music. And I was like, and I didn't turn it down. Like I still didn't turn it down. And I'm like, I'm just going to let him figure it out. Like the music has not moved. You are shouting. And I'm like, so that means I don't want to and he just kept doing it. And so I finally turned my music down. I was like, oh, you really want to talk, Mike? Like you
Talk about Chatterbox.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, you know, I like that. I've never had a tarot card reading, but I feel like even if you're like, I don't know, like it's a thing where like it opens you up to explore thing, like,
For sure.
you know, because it's like open to different interpretations and
Yeah.
stuff, and you can just be like, well, this happened and maybe I need to do this, and it helps you make your own connections and stuff like that.
It's like
so.
art. Like when you go
Sure.
see like a painting or something, you're like, it's gonna like inflict like different things for different people, and it's like, yeah, maybe like none of it is real. And
I
maybe
have talked
whatever.
about on this show that's why I hate art. I'm like, no, I have to be right. It means this, and I
I was
don't
furious
care.
about that. I was furious. I talked to people about that after. I was like, this is why I hate comics. I was like, these people with their just awful opinions on art.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I'm just
Because you and Pat were on the same page.
Yes, I'm just uncultured and dumb, but
Right.
you know, it's fine.
But yeah, that's the whole point. Is it's like it makes it. If you watch a movie, like some people are inspired, some people are like, this was fucking trash. Some people are like, I want to make films. Some people are like, holy fuck, I never learned that before. So it's like, and that's what tarot cards are too. It's just like, it's just a way to like, you know, peel back something and to get you to think differently and to get you to like open up and to like, you know, if something feels synchronistic and you know, like meant for you to hear, then you're like, oh, I'm gonna apply that to my life and then make actions off of it. And then if the shit works out, then you're like, all right, well, that's what fucking God wanted for me, and then we just do that.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Oh, I am gonna flip the question. I think that's a good idea that I usually ask on this podcast. What do you think is the best part of being alive?
I think the best part of being alive is just having constant experience. Like my favorite thing, and well, the thing that's probably got me in trouble too. But it's like, I think that it's such a beautiful thing that like moment to moment, like anything can change. You can meet any new person. You can have any new like event like happen, and it's just constant change. And that's because it's like if we were just the same thing like every day or whatever, it's just like ugh. But it's like I don't know, especially being a comic, I think it's so cool that it's like we're like the narrators of life, and we get to do it in a very like funny but also philosophical way, and we get to all do it together and just like watch each other grow and just live this like lifestyle where it's like we're fucking pirates. Like we're pirates, we're Peter Pan people. We don't ever have to grow up. We can do whatever we want. We can go into situations like comedians can talk to politics. Comedians can talk to, you know, athletes. Comedians can relate to regular. It's like we just have the ability to just like navigate anything like through like having a good sense of humor. And yeah, I mean, I guess that's my favorite part about being alive is just being a comic and being around like, you know, people who
so if you're not a comic, fuck you. You don't get to experience the best part of being alive. No,
I don't think there was any envy.
yeah, everybody's like,
Yeah, people are like, thank
we're
God.
good.
We're
Yeah.
good.
Do we have to go through all
we're
of
good.
that just to be comics? Jesus Christ. Put the cards away, sweetheart. We're concerned. Call that therapist back.
Oh, I love it though. No, that's it's great. It's a positive spin on because as someone with anxiety, like I'm always like, fuck, why does everything have to be so unknown all the time? Like the fact that tomorrow anything could happen, that's a nightmare to me.
Oh my
Like,
God.
I'm like,
yeah.
oh no, what's gonna happen?
Yeah.
But you know, there's also the other side of that, which is anything can happen. You know,
Yeah.
So,
It's
you know?
fucking magical. I mean, yeah, life is, it's beauty and pain, but it's magic. And I just try to like I'm like, dude, there's so many things that I see that are like synchronistic or like whatever. And I'm like, this is fucking magic. And I could be crazy, but I'm like, it just, I think life is really beautiful now. I didn't for a long time, but I'm like, now I'm on the wavelength where I'm like, this shit is fucking epic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. Anything you want to plug?
No, I mean, just my podcast, the Shamanic podcast. If you like hearing about like spirituality or you like hearing about, you know, how I went on my self journey of healing, but like through like a comedy lens, and, or you're just like interested in, you know, just being vulnerable and honest about shit that happens in the world. That's my podcast, and it's on everything. And yeah, that's it.
Check her out, Monarey Martinez. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, thank you.
This was
so
really
much.
fun.
Good. I'm glad that you had fun. Thank you.
Awesome. This has been Everything Hurts. Like, comment, subscribe, do all the things that we want you to do. And I don't know. I think that's it.
Everything hurts, everything hurts, fucking life sucks, everything hurts.